Today, I'm going to teach you about phobias and how you can overcome them. Before we get into this video, I want to let you know how important it is to see someone who specializes in exposure therapy. Someone who's trained in it, continues to learn about it, and practices regularly. It must be done correctly so you don't leave therapy feeling worse. Now before we get started, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new video. So what's the difference between a phobia and a regular old fear? Well, the definition of a phobia is an irrational fear of an object or situation. Except this fear we just defined is an anxiety so intense that it becomes incapacitating. It's pretty common for people to have a fear of spiders, but this doesn't mean they have a spider phobia. A phobia involves significant stress, and people will go to great lengths to avoid it. So if you find yourself anxious about a situation or object just for a couple of weeks, it's probably not a phobia. For a phobia to be diagnosed, it has to be present for 6 months or more. Coming up in this video, we're going to walk through systematic desensitization. And I'm basically going to break that down for you into a formula you can use to eradicate your phobia. Make sure you stick around until the end of the video so we can review some bonus methods of exposure therapy. So, let's dive into some techniques you can use to get over your phobias. Number 1, systematic desensitization. This method involves gradually exposing you to what you're afraid of. If you want to try systematic desensitization, it's most often done with the help of a therapist, but we'll be going through some steps you can take to try it on your own. Here are the steps included in the procedure: relaxation, constructing your hierarchy, and working through your hierarchy. Step 1, relaxation. Arguably the most important step. What you need to do is master a relaxation technique. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it works for you, that's fine. Some possible methods of relaxation are meditation, yoga, PMR, breathing exercises, listening to music, and stretching and walking. Now, I definitely want to stress how important this step is. Try your best to master a relaxation technique. Even before we work through this whole video, I would suggest getting very comfortable with one of these methods. Step 2, construct your anxiety hierarchy. Your hierarchy is a list of situations in order from the least to the most frightening. What you want to do is write each situation on a separate index card. You're going to grade the anxiety of each item by assigning it a number on a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 is the highest level of anxiety and 0 is no anxiety, complete relaxation. Write this number on the back of the index card for the item being graded. Just give each item the first number grade that pops into your head. Don't stress too much on the anxiety grade here. When each item has an anxiety grade, you can sort the cards into 5 category piles: low anxiety, medium low anxiety, medium high anxiety, and high anxiety. The goal here is to end up with at least 2 items in each pile. If this happens, great. If not, just go back and reevaluate some of the items or create some new items. When you've finished, combine all the cards into one pile or make a list that is ordered from lowest to highest anxiety. Also, you should describe the items on your anxiety hierarchy in enough detail to enable you to vividly imagine each one. So it might be sufficient to say, standing in a room with a spider as one of your items, but saying standing barefoot in a small room with a spider might be more graphic and therefore more effective in your imagination techniques. Remember that the items are most effective if they can help you experience the event in your imagination, not just describe it. So congratulations, you've constructed your anxiety hierarchy. Now we can begin practicing. Step 3, working through your hierarchy. Let's revisit the fear of spiders that we talked about earlier. Pretend this list is the hierarchy you just constructed, and we can work through it like this. Begin with the least frightening situations, or the lowest anxiety levels. Work down through the chart until you're able to completely eradicate your phobia. Now, how do we actually do this? It's a lot easier said than done, so I'm going to break down the instructions for working through this list. Work on each item for whatever amount of time seems tolerable to you, even if that's only 10 seconds. Alright, so the instructions on actually working through this hierarchy. We're going to break it down. First, relax. Use whatever relaxation technique you've mastered by now to become completely relaxed. Next, practice that situation, that first item on the list, for a tolerable amount of time. Like I said, this could only be 10 seconds. That's okay. We're starting at the beginning here. After you practice that first item, determine your anxiety level. You can determine this on a scale of 0 to 100. Then, after you've determined how you feel after working through that first item, you want to reestablish relaxation. Come back to 0, complete relaxation. Then, you want to re-practice that same item for a tolerable amount of time. If you can do it for a little bit longer, that's great. If it's the same amount, that's okay. Even if it's less this time, it's still okay. After you practice that item for the second time, you want to determine your anxiety level again. This time, if you feel no anxiety, you can move on to the next item on your list. If you do still feel anxiety, then you want to repeat the relaxation technique and start again. If you're all good, then move on to the next item on your list. Then repeat the whole hierarchy. Then repeat all the steps for the next item. So it's that simple. That's how you work through your hierarchy. Take as long as you need. Maybe this takes you 1 day. Maybe this takes you 5 months. Whatever it takes, we're going to get rid of that phobia. Okay, so some notes on working through your hierarchy. Don't spend more than 30 minutes at a time practicing, and don't work on more than 3 items on your list in the same session. You don't want to burn yourself out. It's okay to be stuck on the same step for a long time. Phobias can go away if continued to be treated. You just have to be as patient as possible when working through the process. Another note, each session, except the very first one, should begin with the last item from your previous session. That is, if the last item was successfully desensitized, then you should review it in the next session. And if it was not successfully desensitized, then you should begin with it in the next session. Take as long as you need to complete each stage of this process. Even if it takes months, that's okay. Each step is directly related to the main fear, but pushes you a little bit further each time. A lot of people wonder, how long does it take to get over a phobia? But the answer is different for everyone. So ask your clinician about systematic desensitization if it sounds right for you. Okay, now we're going to get into some problems you may encounter when working with this technique. So if it's not working for you and you feel like, what is this? This is a waste of my time. Is this even a way to get rid of phobias? There may be some causes as to why it's not working for you. The first one is the situations you created are not being imagined vividly enough. So a solution to this is describe the situation in greater detail. Like I mentioned earlier, it's better to say standing barefoot in a room with a spider than seeing a spider. You want to really experience that situation, not just describe it. As much detail as you can, you want to jam in there. Another possible solution, imagine this situation for a longer period of time. I know I said do it for as long as tolerable, but sometimes you're able to push a little bit further than you think you are. Think about going to the gym. Say you're doing the bench press. If a friend is there with you, really motivating you, saying, come on, Rob, you can get 3 more reps, you can do this. You're able to push a little bit deeper than if you were on your own. So this is why it's great to be done with a therapist, because they're able to help you work through that. Another possible problem could be an item is out of order on your list. So say your third item induces lower anxiety than your second item. That could be throwing off the whole process. So what you can do here is just eliminate that item or describe it differently. Okay, so that's all for systematic desensitization, aka like gradual exposure therapy. You can ask your therapist about either one, they'll know. But we're going to get into some bonus techniques now. The first one is called flooding. Now, flooding involves you being totally immersed in the sensation of anxiety. This directly opposes the more gradual nature of systematic desensitization. Let's say you have an elevator phobia. Using the flooding method, your therapist may take you directly on an elevator to begin the process, starting with the most anxiety-inducing situation you could imagine. Now, this method has a high dropout rate because of the stressful nature of the technique. Me personally, I would recommend the more gradual exposure therapy. Opposed to this, it seems safer. But if it sounds right for you, ask your therapist. The next bonus method is virtual reality exposure therapy, or VRET. Now, VRET includes being immersed in a computer-generated environment that resembles the situation that you fear. This is a much safer method than flooding and a more realistic method than imaginational techniques. So this could be the best option for you, and if your local clinician offers it, it's definitely worth inquiring about. So the last bonus method is thought stopping. Thought stopping is a method in which you learn to stop having anxiety-provoking thoughts. While practicing thought stopping, your therapist may challenge your irrational beliefs about your phobia. For example, pretend you have a phobia of crowded spaces. A therapist may show you that the catastrophic results you think will come from going to a crowded event are unrealistic and exaggerated. Another technique involved with thought stopping is talking to yourself. While you're in an anxiety-inducing situation, you can constantly remind yourself out loud that your fears are irrational and overstated. Be sure to ask your therapist about any of the techniques mentioned in this video to make sure they're safe for you. So what's next? I provided you with a bunch of information on phobias and how to overcome them, but where do you go from here? Well, if you're ready to start getting over your phobia today, then click here to download the Anxiety Hierarchy Worksheet, which includes instructions on how to work through your list of fears. This list will help you organize all of your anxiety-inducing situations so you can start to overcome them today. If you guys start working on getting over your phobias, let me know how it's going in the comments section below. Feel free to share whatever techniques work for you to get over phobias and anxiety. We're all in this together, so I want us to work with each other to get through this. That's all for today. I'll see you guys in the next video.